So what a week we saw for wide receivers. And this week we got a lot of good options on the waiver wire that can help you in week 9 of your matchups in fantasy football. And the first guy we got off the wire, he was on my list last week, and people, they didn't get him that much. He's still 53% available, is Corey Davis of the Tennessee Titans. He had a monster game again, 10 targets, 8 catches for 128 yards and a touchdown. So we had a top 5 performance in fantasy football and a monster game versus Cincinnati. So since Davis came off the COVID list, he's had 2 good games. Last week with 15 and 28 this week. Next week he's got a tough matchup versus Chicago. But it looks like the coverage over there versus Tennessee, teams are rolling to A.J. Brown and focused on Jonnu Smith underneath, and obviously Derrick Henry they're loading the box on too. But this guy Corey Davis, he was a high-touted prospect out of college with Randy Moss comparisons, and this guy, he's had 2 great games now, so he's definitely a number 1 priority to go out there and get. He's in an offense where, yes, he is the third option, but he's a guy who's going to have one-on-one coverage most of the time, and he's going to have a chance to beat it. So Corey Davis will be my first get to go and get on the wire this week. The second guy's Curtis Samuel, who we saw have a great game on Thursday Night Football, and now Samuel's had 3 good games in a row. He had 21 fantasy points versus the Atlanta Falcons, who I know is a weak defense, but he had 23 rushing yards and a touchdown towards the goal line, and then 4 catches for 31 and a touchdown. The only thing with Samuel, those rushes aren't going to come anymore. Christian McCaffrey, he's coming back this week in week 9 versus the Kansas City Chiefs, but Samuel, he's outproducing some of his teammates right now, like DJ Moore. The last 2 games, he's outproduced him. And in this game, Robbie Anderson, he outproduced him. So Samuel, they use him as a gadget guy. He's got some speed. He's available in a bunch of leagues. 80% of leagues he's available in. So he'll be the second guy I want to go and get. The third guy is a guy coming off injury, and he looks like the second receiver, and he looked productive last night. Is Jalen Reagor of the Philadelphia Eagles. He came out, started off good in that game. He had 6 targets, 3 catches with a touchdown, and he also converted a 2-point conversion, and he had an end around for 6 yards. So it looks like the Eagles, they're getting healthy now. Fulgham, the main man there, and even if Alshon comes back, I don't think he's going to eat into Fulgham or Jeffrey's snaps. But Reagor, he's out there. Like I said, in 75% of leagues, he's a guy to go out there and get is Reagor. They're going to use him. It looked like Wentz liked him underneath. We saw him score a touchdown early in the game. So Jalen Reagor, definitely go out there and try to get him if he's available. Yes, he has a bye, but after that, he's got the Giants, Cleveland, and Seattle. 3 cupcake matchups after the Week 9 bye. So go out there and get Reagor ahead of time, because he's going to keep producing and getting better after coming off that thumb injury here before he produced in Week 8. The next receiver is Marvin Jones of the Detroit Lions. We've seen him produce now in the last few games. When I said a few weeks ago drop him, he was doing nothing, but he's a Matthew Stafford favorite, it looks like again. And Jones, 3 catches, only 39 yards, but he did have 2 touchdowns, and he still had the target. And Detroit, they're going to be trailing in a lot of games. So Jones for a bench-in filler or whatever, bye-week filler as well, not bad. He's still available in 50% of leagues is Jones. But now he's got 2 good back-to-back games. 13 points last week with 5 catches for 80 yards. And then this week, 19 he had. And now he's got Minnesota and Washington coming up. 2 pretty good matchups for Marvin Jones and the Lions. So if Jones is out there, which he is in half of leagues, go out there and get him. You could get much worse. The next guy's Mccole Hardman of the Kansas City Chiefs. That Chief offense, it's hard to predict who's going to get the looks and touches with Sammy Watkins out. But Hardman in a very good matchup versus the Jets had 9 targets, 7 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. So Hardman, he's available in 70% of leagues. He hasn't done much the last 3 weeks until this week. He woke up, and I think Watkins, they'll hold him out at least 1 more week, is the Kansas City Chiefs, because they go on bye in week 10. So week 9, Hardman, if you need, a flex or a second receiver, you're in big trouble, or you're playing a deep league where you start a lot of flexes or receivers. Hardman's not a bad guy to go out there and get. He'll have one more week probably with a good role, and you want part of this Chiefs offense. This is the best offense in football, them with Seattle. So if you could anytime get a piece and a guy's playing in a good offense, you go out there and get that guy. The next guy is Darnell Mooney of the Chicago Bears. I thought Mooney wouldn't do much with Allen Robinson back, but Nick Foles hit him on a nice deep ball as well, and Mooney had a touchdown. He finished the day with 18 fantasy points, 5 catches for 69 yards and a touchdown. So Mooney, he's the third receiver there. We saw Anthony Miller finally wake up as well with 8 catches for 74 yards, but Mooney's the field stretcher for the Bears. He's starting to get more work as the weeks go on, is Mooney, and now in the last 2 weeks he has 13 targets. So they're definitely integrating him into the offense more, is Mooney, as the Chicago Bears. So he's out there in a bunch of fantasy leagues. He's available in 95% of fantasy leagues, so Mooney will definitely be there. And if you need a guy in a pinch, he's a guy to go get. The next guy, he's playing on Thursday night, and he's going to have a role once again for the San Francisco 49ers, is Kendrick Bourne. He had a good game. He had 10 targets, 8 catches for 81 yards, and he's got a game Thursday night versus the Packers. So Bourne, he got an opportunity. He took advantage of it, especially with Deebo Samuel, who's already ruled out for this week as well. I don't see Samuel coming back to week 12 possibly, because they got a bye in week 11. Bourne's available in 92% of leagues. He's got a good matchup. He looked better, honestly, was Bourne this week with Mullins coming in. Jimmy G was a total wreck till he left the game with the ankle injury. So Kendrick Bourne, he's out there. Kittle's banged up. Samuel's out. So he's a sneaky pickup at the back end of the waiver wire heading into week 9. So that's not a bunch of receivers I'm going to try to target going into week 9 on the waiver wire.